Oh, this is... You don't want to be on camera. You don't want to say hello to everybody. So I don't really like to be held. Oh, yeah, okay. Is that okay if I scratch your chest? Yeah. Get some face scratches. You just want to be put down. Don't know. Okay. Hey guys, thanks for coming back to check out another video. I'm sorry that it has been like so long since I've uploaded anything. I think it's been like 2 weeks, and it's probably been like 3 to 4 weeks since I've sat down and filmed anything. So like getting back into like that headspace and like just kind of like remembering how to act on camera, it's like a little, it's coming back to me slowly but surely. So if I seem a little off, like that's why. But this is update 5, I believe, to the Pan That palette, and we are doing the Lorac Mega Pro 4. So I'm holding it upside down as well. We have a lot to talk about in this update, a lot of thoughts, a lot of, stuff has went on with this. So, but before we get into all of that, I need to insert a clip of what it looked like last month. And so this is what the palette is looking like this month. I think you can get like a pretty good idea. Again, hold your expectations. We're going to go through it. So we're just going to go down the rows like we have been. So the first shade, Flamingo, here, I believe Flamingo has had pan on it since July, and I think we've actually started to expand the pan on this. I have been really into this past month like pink and silver eye looks, and Flamingo is a very hard pressed shade in here, and so it's it takes a lot. Like, you really have to swirl your brush around in there to get like enough product onto your brush to use, and it's also like a very light pink shade. So I think both of those like combine, like it's slow moving with the pan, and then but it also takes a lot more product. So anyway, Cedar here has definitely had the pan expanded, and if you'll, I don't know if this is your first video or what, but Cedar is just like a dark brown, and that's what I use in my brows over my dip brow. And then Mocha here has had a dip on him for quite some time. No pan yet. I do use Mocha though to kind of like deepen up my crease. It's not like my initial transition shade that I lay down, but I do like to use it to kind of just define everything. We will come back to Denim. That is an empty pan, but don't get too excited. The same goes for Oat. But then we can talk about changes to Sugar Cookie. Did not have pan on it last month, and I'm really surprised that not only do we have pan, but that's quite a lot of pan like showing. Sugar Cookie in this palette, I think, is like the most powdery matte shade by far. Like, you just barely tap your brush into there, and it's like just this like hardcore explosion of like gray powder everywhere. So that's great in the sense of like, I'm gonna finish him off come the end of the year if I continue to use him, but like it feels like I'm cheating a little bit just because there is such an explosion and such a waste of product, but it's like kind of out of my control. So it's not a bad shade. I really like it. It's just a standard matte gray shade. I like to use it in the crease when I am playing around with like the pinks and silvery kind of looks. Did not touch Mahogany. I used Spice today. So he has a dip on him. He's had a dip for quite some time though. I use so little of Spice when I do a look with him, because it tends to be like the shade that I use on like my outer V just to deepen up the look. We can talk about this empty pan on Foam though. I did finish off Foam. So Foam had a dip on him for quite some time, because I think that came from when I like was first experimenting with the palette and didn't have like any like go-to looks, and I remembered like not being super thrilled with foam and its performance. So it was just like a shimmer shade, and I don't know how to explain this. It wasn't like very impactful at all. Like it would dust away so quickly off of any eye look. Even if I put down like a very sticky like base, it just would not cling to it. So I was really upset, and I was like, well, how can I get foam to like work within this palette? So even though it was like a shimmer and had a bit of a sheen to it, it wasn't super impactful. So I actually started using foam as my like all over lid setting shade, and so wiped him out really quickly doing that. And then we also finished off Moss. There was just like the tiniest little corner left in him last time, and it really did only take like a week's worth of like use to finish him off, and I'm really glad that that one is out of my life. Not that I don't like green eyeshadow, but just I found that Moss wasn't like a standalone color for me. I liked to layer him with other like green shades. So like I was using ColourPop's Tea Garden on top of him. Didn't really play around with Steel Wool. Still have yet to touch Copper Pearl. Same with Lotus, but Fairy Tale here, we did expand the pan on him just a little bit. And then we also managed to hit pan in Misty Mauve here. So Misty Mauve is like this great, to me, it has chunky glitter in it, but the glitter doesn't like fall off onto my face. So I don't use it as like a standard shimmer shade. I've been using it in my crease and like to deepen up the outer V of looks. And like I said, I've been pairing him with a lot of like pinks and purples because this month of November, I've just been so in love with like a pink gray kind of look. And then Plum, I was really working hard to finish Plum off. We've got like just maybe a third of that pan left, and I enjoy Plum. I really like Plum. It's not a bad shade. It's just, for me personally, like when it's had pan for so long on it like that, like I'm just like, let's get it out of here. Let's move it out. Like I just want to finish up another shade. Plum moves so slowly though too, because I don't, I use it in my crease and in the outer V, but I pair it with ColourPop Super Shock Shadow Birthday Cake. So I don't tend to reach for it that often, because when I do use it, it tends to be the only shade from the palette that I'm using, and then I pull in outside sources. So I feel a little guilty, like, oh, but you should really be working on a lot more shades in your palette so that you can make good progress. But let's talk about those shades that we needed to come back to. So Oat is actually not finished off. If you'll recall, like Oat is a very hard pressed matte within the palette, much like Flamingo, but he was starting to like crumble into like bits when I would try to use it. And I believe I have pictures to like insert with like what the pan looked like before I did all this, but I ended up having to repress Oat into this 1-inch pan, and now there is not that much product left in here, and since repressing him, he is a lot more powdery and it moves a lot more quickly. That wasn't like my intention with repressing him, to make him more powdery and to go more quickly. It simply was that he was crumbling, and I didn't want to waste any product if I could help it. And then with Denim, so Denim was a like matte periwinkle kind of blue shade, and it wasn't my jam, but I didn't want to remove it. And you know, in last month's update, I was talking with like some people in the comments about like, you know, have you tried repressing shades or like mixing them and kind of like making a custom shade? And I had never tried that, but like essentially through talking with you guys, came to the decision that like, what's the harm if it's a shade that I'm not super thrilled with and I try mixing it and making like a custom shade? If it doesn't work out, like it's no love lost. So I ended up mixing Denim with Cyborg from ABH Sultry palette, which is like a silver that had like a purple sheen to it. So I mixed that and it filled the pan up completely, and I do have like a picture of when I originally like pressed it. But I was able to also hit pan on that shade. So we do have pan on Denim, and I will swatch this for you guys since it is like a custom shade. It's really pretty. I really enjoy it. It's like a purple. It's almost like a lighter version of Fairy Tale within the palette, to be honest. That like kind of blue purple shade, that's the shimmer. They're very similar actually, but Fairy Tale, so Fairy Tale is here on the bottom. They're very, very similar. Fairy Tale, though, is a little more impactful and a little more blue, in my opinion. I don't know how well that's like translating on camera, but in real life, that's what you would find if you looked at it. And so then we have Denim was the last shade in there that looks like I finished him off and I didn't. Or not Denim, I'm sorry, Peacock. So Peacock is like this in-your-face like blue color. But when I did try to wear it, again, it was kind of like with the same thing with foam. Like it faded even though I would use like a very sticky primer underneath it. So I just wasn't that happy with it. And I was going through and I had the Violet Voss collab they did with Nicole Concilio. And there was a blue, like very sparkly, glittery blue shade within that palette called Pingy, I think. And so I took just the smallest little bit of that shade and repressed it with Peacock. And so I have used this like maybe once or twice since repressing it, like no pan, but I have, you know, used it and I do like it a lot better. I think that it performs a lot better for whatever reason. And it's really dark. It's a very dark blue shade. It's nice, but it's not something that I gravitate towards or want to use a lot. It's very bold, which, I mean, I have gotten more bolder since choosing this palette for my Pan That palette, because typically I was just like a more neutral girl and played it safe with like pinks and neutrals and browns and yellows and things like that. This palette though did make me find an appreciation for like blue shades. Like never in my life did I think I would get so much enjoyment out of like Fairy Tale and Steel Wool, but here we are. And even that like Denim shade, that is one of like my favorite shades that I have in my collection now. So we need to talk. We'll save the hard part for the last. I've been thinking, I know I originally said like I want to do this for like the whole year, so I started this in July, so that means that we wouldn't like officially call this palette done until July. But honestly, like there's a couple of factors here. So the first is I want to call it in December, like, so you know, the end of like we'll play with this and finish it off, and then so at the end of December I'll do like a finale update on it. So that's 6 months worth of usage. And I think for this being like my first Pan That palette, I think that's great to, you know, have loved a palette for 6 months. And I still really enjoy this palette. The problem I'm faced with is that when I look at this, what I have left in here is not enough to carry me through till July. There is no color in here that I would consider like a spring or summer color, short of like maybe Mocha Spice and Copper Pearl. The rest of the shades though that I am left with in here are very like dark or just blue, and those aren't shades that I just don't foresee myself like gravitating towards come springtime. So the other thing too is like everyone else is like getting amped up and like ready for their, you know, they're finishing their Pan That palettes for 2019, and so they're going to start in 2020, and it's like, it's so exciting, and I'm kind of like envious of that, and I want that, and so yeah, I just want to start something new in 2020 and do carry it for the whole year. And I have some thoughts that I'm kicking around in my head of like what palette I want to do, like how I want to accomplish that. Different things like that. Like this palette, I do want to see this through. So you will probably, if I do the Pan That palette that I'm leaning towards, like this would be a great companion palette, at least for like the remaining of winter. So like January, February, and like maybe a little bit of March. I hope you guys are like okay with that. You know, I don't consider it a failure. I'm still really proud of myself with all the progress that I've made with this, but that's just kind of like where I'm at, and I don't want to like force myself to finish off something if I'm just not feeling it. Like I still want to enjoy my makeup and enjoy my collection. so that is all that we have to talk about. Hopefully this video wasn't like too rambly. But let me know like in the comments like what you guys think, and if you want like a follow-up video to this where like I kind of go over my thought process, like what I'm thinking of doing for 2020, like let me know. I would be more than happy to like film that, and then we could have like a discussion on that and like make it more of like maybe a community effort to decide some things. But until then, I will catch you guys in the next video, and I hope that you have a great day. Bye.